So here are our three big stories for today. We're going to start not in Russia or Ukraine, but in Venezuela. Maduro orders the immediate exploitation of oil, gas, and mines in Guyana's Esquibito. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that right, but they're actually going to invade their neighbor, take their oil fields. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro on Tuesday directed the country's state-owned companies to immediately begin to explore and exploit the gas and oil mines in Guyana's Esquibito region, a territory larger than Greece and rich in oil and materials that Venezuela claims as its own. Maduro got the victory he sought in a weekend referendum. They voted in Venezuela, not in Guyana, on whether to claim sovereignty over the region. It's not clear how the Maduro administration intends to implement the idea of exercising jurisdiction over the territory once it's officially declared part of Venezuela. Here's the region, here's Venezuela, and here's this region next to Venezuela that they're contesting. Here's a BBC article about this. Many analysts have described the Esquibito referendum as tactical response by President Nicolas Maduro to whip up nationalist fervor and distraction from the calls for free and fair elections. This sounds familiar, doesn't it? The referendum has not only ratcheted up tensions between Venezuela and its neighbor Guyana. He said in a televised announcement that the prosecutor's office had uncovered transnational conspiracy allegedly financed by the U.S. Of course, the U.S. is to blame. Esquibito is an oil-rich swath of jungle administered by Venezuela's neighbor Guyana. Okay, and here's what it looks like. So they want to take most of this country. And does that sound familiar? An authoritarian going over the border to grab land to exploit for its own resources. So that's what's going on there. Now, I've got it wrong because I would have predicted that the next hotspot would be Serbia and Kosovo, but it looks like it's going to be Serbia and Serbs in Bosnia-Herzegovina when that happens, when that kicks off in the Republika Srpska. And look for that down the line. Now, the only big winner here is Putin, who is smiling all the way to the bank because every hotspot that causes trouble around the world takes our eyes more off Ukraine. Okay, second story. 2 Russian officers sentenced to 4 years each for failing to repulse a Ukrainian attack. The verdict is the first of its kind since the start of Russia's invasion and originated in a Ukrainian missile attack in March last year on an ammunition depot in Russia's Belgorod region. Kind of weird. Relieving of command, yes. Sent to prison, that's wild. Third story. Russia warns U.S. that Ukraine will be its second Vietnam. Now, it's fascinating that they would say this. The Kremlin spy chief warned that Ukraine will turn into a, quote, black hole absorbing more and more resources and people. Russia's foreign intelligence chief said on Thursday in a written statement published by his agency's House Journal Intelligence Operative. Ultimately, the U.S. risks creating a second Vietnam for itself, and every new American administration will have to deal with it. But the analogy is not right. The analogy is more like the Soviets' relationship to Vietnam. The Soviet Union and China gave moral and logistical and military support to North Vietnam. And how much did they put in? They've put in hundreds of millions of dollars, but it was the Americans that suffered with the hot war, which is what Russia's doing right now. And the Soviets got off by just giving some aid and equipment and money. But what's even more important or interesting is why is he saying it? When he says something, you could almost say, okay, if he says do this, don't support it because it's going to be like Vietnam. Do the opposite, because supporting Ukraine is really what he's trying to prevent you from doing. Okay, that's my 3 big stories. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and the coffees. And thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.